have folks joining, I'd like to just offer you an opportunity to reflect on the last few months. I agree with Christian in the chat. This topic and inspiration is needed now more than ever. And so I want to invite you to think about the last couple months. I want you to think about what's been most challenging for you and what have been the key opportunities. For the next 30 minutes, we're really going to dig into inspiration and how it works and what it is. And it's going to be helpful if you have some of these thoughts about what's most relevant for you, front and center. Welcome, Saudi. Nicole's been looking forward to the session. Me too, Nicole. Great to have you in the session. So much excitement. The numbers are still climbing quite aggressively. So in the chat, as you're sitting, please share what's been most challenging for you over the last couple months. What are the key opportunities that have come forward for you in the last several months? Finding a job. I hear you, Serena. And I will share personally that some of my best career pivots have happened from losing a job. So hold on and hang on. And this talk is going to be super relevant for you. Collecting cash from clients. Yeah, let's apply inspiration there. Awesome. Not being overwhelmed. Yes. Beautiful. Worked with 70 high-ranking military leaders in the United States military last week, and they are having trouble staying focused and staying motivated. So you are not alone. These are folks who are classically trained for the last many decades, and they are struggling. Yes. Rethinking business. Beautiful. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started because I want to stay on track with time, and I have so much to share in the next 30 minutes. I'm so excited to be with you today. My name is Jen Grace Barron. I'm one of the co-CEOs and founders of a firm called Inspire Core. We have a book that came out just last fall. The timing is really elegant, called Dare to Inspire. And we do believe that inspiration is needed now more than ever. I hope this is the very beginning of a conversation with you all, and I would love to stay connected in lots of different social media ways. I want to open with just a tiny bit of background and how we ended up studying inspiration, because I think it's important. So I worked in industry for over 2 decades at Fortune 1000 companies like eBay and Johnson & Johnson. And it was in that work that I started to get ideas about very best practices. I saw the most inspiring organizations and departments and teams and leaders. And thank you for fast forwarding that slide, Serena, came together with 2 co-founders, Allison Holzer, bottom right-hand corner, Sandy Spataro, bottom left. And 7 years ago, we got together and decided that we could have more impact from the outside of organizations than from the inside, potentially. And we started asking the question, how were we going to do that? And we spent a whole weekend really brainstorming and thinking about the most extraordinary success that we had witnessed in companies, what we deemed was really best in class and best practice in organizations in terms of what we had witnessed. And the word inspiration kept coming up. And we were really curious about that. Like, what do we know about inspiration? So of course we went to the literature because we're all steeped in really good science, and we found that we don't know a lot about inspiration. We don't know a lot about how it works in organizations or how it even works in a human system. And that was inspiring to us. And so 6 years ago, we embarked on our own original research. And what we wanted to do is to understand how inspiration works at its best and what it is. And so today, next slide, Serena, I'm here to share a bit about that with you. Oh, the AIM slide, thank you. Thank you, dear. So here's what I hope for in the next 30 minutes. I'm going to really hope to stick the landing on 2 experience labs. In that experience lab, you're going to have a little bit of time to apply some key insights that I'm sharing with you. And I'm going to be able to invite you in to a virtual table for just a quick kind of round robin of dialogue. So needless to say, this is not a spectator sport. I'd like you all to sit forward in your chair. And this is one of those, like, you're gonna get what you give sort of half hours. So sit forward. We're gonna share some what is inspiration, how it works at its best, and then also some how do I apply it right now? What's most relevant right now in COVID? Next slide, Serena. Here's what we found in our research. We interviewed hundreds of leaders, teams, and organizations. So folks who were CEOs and could speak to from the perspective of the organization. Folks that we considered, or we had gathered and qualified as most inspiring, and we interviewed them. And here is what we found. Inspiration, as this is our working definition, is a crossover between possibility. So there's a piece of it where a new idea presents, and this is not unique. This is in psychology, it's called prospection. It's what separates us from animals, our ability to think about the future and what might be possible to present different scenarios. But what's unique is in inspiration, possibility crosses over with what we call invincibility. So those 2 top circles happen at the same time. And invincibility we think about as a courage or a confidence to take action. So when inspiration strikes, there's this new possibility, but we're moved in a way that we almost can't help but take an action toward it. Then a really interesting thing came forward, because we knew that inspiration was certainly a Jedi emotion. We knew that it was a state that happens in an emotion. But what we found is that it's also a trait. And that's where sustainable inspiration came into focus for us. And we started to understand that the most successful individuals and teams and organizations have a way of sustaining inspiration over time to produce breakthrough results. So this is our working definition. First things first, though, so that this can be useful to you. Next slide, Serena. What we found is that it is a leader's first job to inspire self. First things first. Good luck trying to inspire others. Good luck getting clients to pay. Good luck landing your next opportunity if you yourself aren't inspired. It just doesn't work. So this entire session is really designed to help you activate more inspiration. Little bit of background on this, and a little bit of a Cliff Notes version of our book. In our research, what we found is that people, to produce sustainable inspiration, they actually go to what we call engines of inspiration. And we found a bunch of them, but they fall into 3 main categories. I'm going to present you with both the categories and the engines and some truths about inspiration. Please be jotting down what you think is important, useful, relevant for you right now. And be ready to jump into the dialogue shortly. So 3 categories of engines. There are ways that we predictably inspire ourselves. There are ways that we are predictably inspired in relationships. And there are ways that we are predictably inspired by certain situations. So those are the 3 categories of engines. In the next slide, don't be overwhelmed, right? I'm just going to flash this kind of quickly. There are a bunch of engines within each of those categories. We're going to hit on 3 of the engines that we know are most relevant during a global pandemic, when inspiration is more important now than ever. But just notice, kind of scan through these 18 engines of inspiration. See which ones are particularly great go-tos for you. See which ones you're curious about. And then on the next slide, I'll share with you, some truths about how inspiration works, and then we're going to get you applying it. So 5 truths. Inspiration is very personal. In fact, we think about it almost like a fingerprint, that every one of us, based on our personality and our histories, we have our own really distinct algorithm for how we inspire ourselves. The engines have lots of great clues in them. Those were the patterns that surfaced that showed us how people do this. And you may not be aware of it in the ways that we're bringing kind of new language distinctions, but all of you are successful and have figured out how to inspire yourself on an ongoing basis. You're already running these sustainable inspiration strategies for yourself and your teams. We're just bringing forward some more operationalization of it, some new language and ways to think about it so you can be more strategic with it. So inspiration is very highly personal. First thing to do and know is, how do I inspire myself? And then how can I do that more often, right? Because it's like a muscle that actually gets built. We have the power and the agency to both inspire ourselves and to inspire others. This is foundational in emotional intelligence literature. Another truth is that there are these reliable engines that we go to spark inspiration. And we can start tracking this. It's because inspiration is sustainable over time. Another way that we like to think about it is that on a daily basis, you actually have an IQ, or an inspiration quotient. We have a dream that we'll be measuring this in organizations, and we've already started, but like vastly, and building strategy around this inspiration quotient for our employees and for our customers. And that inspiration is quite contagious. It is a high octane, as I mentioned, Jedi emotion that is quite contagious. So those are some truths about inspiration. And so we want to get you working on this. One of the ways that we think about that inspiration happens and is really easy to translate, next slide, Serena, is if you think about your best days. Now, I know this is a little bit ironic. During a global pandemic, most of our lives have been turned upside down in really, really interesting and important ways. It's not been easy. It's not always been fun. And we're going to talk about this, that inspiration is not just a bright, shiny construct. It's actually, some of the most deepest patterns of inspiration happen from the things that are hardest, from heavier and darker things that happen in our lives. But in the meantime, I want to get you thinking about your very best days. And let's go into the lab, Serena. So a quick experience. I'd like you to think about 3 mission critical things that you know are supporting you during this time. 3 engines that you are applying, could be on a daily basis, could be on a weekly basis, but jot them down, pop them into the text, if you will, into the chat. And we're going to go ahead and open up great. I've got folks, I'm going to let you in. Melissa, Hoffa, please, we'd love a few more. Richard, Karen. So I'd love to hear from you all. What do you know is working best at this time? Uh-oh, did you guys not get added in? Let's see. I may have inadvertently not added you. If you guys can come back in, and I'll be more careful about pressing the right button. Thank you. Okay, I hit a plus. Hopefully that got you in. Yay! What might you say about inspiration? What are you doing these days? Things that are mission critical to support you during this time.
Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Of course.
Beside
We're gonna have to keep this really quick. One thing
beside working out the exercise, I do something on a weekly basis is meet someone new, never met, randomly just click on their name and have a conversation and see where are they and just share where am I at this stage and connect with different people.
Oh my God, I love that one. That's fantastic. Let's do another one. Let's hear another one. Can you guys come back in? Because I think I was the one that messed up letting you in the first time. Let's see. Networking online, yes. Research, good. Reading, yes. That's new perspectives. Every one of these you'll find coded in our inspiration engines. Is it Tafik? Oh, I lost him. Here is what I will say. That was foreshadowing. Tafik's insight was foreshadowing on a concept that we're going to cover at the end of this session, which is called reciprocity of belonging. Reciprocity of belonging. So that's my little teaser to stay on and keep you guys working on this. Okay, so next I want to, as promised, highlight a couple of the, and some best practices. And this is just on the ground, what we're seeing across organizations, across leaders. Best practices include structure and routine, duh. But as I mentioned, even folks in the military are struggling with this. So we're gonna have to get really wily and hack new ways of building structure and accountability. This isn't true for everyone, right? This is a very personal thing, how much structure we need in order to both feel great about our work and to be productive. So managing energy and emotions. Workout already came up. I'll plug a colleague, Kelly McGonigal has a brand new book out on the power of movement and how it connects to our well-being and our productivity and our ability to have impact in the world. She's so great. Her TED Talk is The Upside of Stress, and her brand new book is it's so timely. Trust, yes, really important on the ground, balancing between being vulnerable and sharing how you're struggling as a leader, certainly flexing as people need it, being transparent with what you know and what you don't know, and then also holding accountability, right? So supporting folks with the structure they need when they need it or the accountability that they need. So mindset is everything. We believe that right now, one of the key challenges is actually building meaning and making sense of all of the ambiguity and the uncertainty around us. So any ways that you can set your mind to help build that meaning on a daily basis in ways that produce productivity and well-being for you. And then finally, creating agency. So where do we have choice? What do we have choice about, etc. Okay, next slide. I want to get back to some of the engines. And I'm going to highlight 3 engines and give you another quick experience around the virtual table, and have an opportunity to pop in with anyone who has questions or insights. So the first engine that I want to highlight is overcoming constraints. And this was something that came up quite often, especially at the C level when we were interviewing leaders. They said that one of the most inspiring things that they find is when someone tells them no, when someone tells them that something isn't possible. We're hearing this a lot in the last 3 months, that the threat of going out of business, the threat that my job might not be there, all of these different threats and obstacles are actually producing a lot of inspiration. People are moved to get creative and to figure things out. So many times an obstacle can actually be flipped pretty quickly into, I don't want to be told no. Let's see what's possible. Another engine, Serena, next slide, that we're finding particularly relevant right now is loss and grief and failure. So we have an opportunity and a privilege to be with lots of folks in medicine right now, in healthcare, and physician leaders, and I am so moved by how, you know, when they try something and it doesn't work, when they've lost a life, they are actually moved to get stronger and to be better. They you know, I often think of one of our clients who said, you know, as soon as this happened and we realized that it could happen and we lost a patient this way, never again on my watch was he inspired to create kind of a new reality. So grief and loss and failure can be wildly inspiring for people. This is really normal. And a third engine, before we get you into another experience lab, that's most relevant right now is the one that I found, reciprocity of belonging. And so I loved that example of just finding someone new to connect with every week. I know lots of people who are reaching out to what we would call like a dormant networking tie, someone they haven't spoken with in 5 or 10 or 15 years, or an aunt that you haven't talked to in a day. Jumping on Zoom and reconnecting. Reciprocity of belonging, we think about this as, what are the ways in which I can help others and my sense of belonging is met, and their sense of belonging is met because they're being helped, and vice versa. So it's, how can I be of service? How can I be in community helping others? And where can I look for opportunities to be lifted, to be helped? Both sides are critically important. If you're just always giving, you're actually robbing people of the opportunity to feel belonging from giving to you and helping you. So those are 3 engines that we know are most relevant right now. Here is another question or prompt that I'd love for you to take a minute and consider. Think of someone for whom you want to make a difference today and how you will do this. How you will do this. If we're paying attention, there are signals all around, much less if we just quiet ourselves and listen to our own intuition. If you just sit quietly and close your eyes and you think about someone you want to make a difference for today, just see who pops up. And then use a little inspiration and think of a possibility that you could create for them. So I'll give you another minute. We have some folks coming in on the panel. I'm going to add Anna. Here she comes. Hi, Anna.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. What do you think of this concept of reciprocity of belonging?
I think it's central. It's an essential feeling for building something relevant for the market and the clients. We need to focus on reciprocity and think what we can get from others and give others.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, that whole concept is really illustrated in Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, from a few years ago. I highly recommend it. And we like, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, we really like to hone in on the reciprocity of service, right? Okay. Just how can we make that difference for someone else? We're finding it's a high octane engine, really high octane engine to keep ourselves afloat, to keep ourselves feeling good. Anything else you would add before we open up to others if they want to come into the room, share an insight or a question? We'll have about 5 minutes for some dialogue and some Q&A.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. To questions. Some of you are in the chat. Someone's ex-employee, and thank her for her service, her work. Beautiful. Absolutely. I've been on calls recently where leaders at high levels are having to do things they've never done before. And what's coming to mind are the mentors that they've had over the years. They're really calling on that brilliance, that wisdom, that intelligence that they got from mentors. Mentors and heroes is another one of the 18 engines of inspiration. Now is a time to reach back to them. It's a time to thank them for what they gave you, for what they taught you, and to share with them how you're using it during this most critical and challenging time. Any other questions, either in the chat or feel free to come into the, I don't know what to call it, the round table, the virtual round table. I'd love to see you. I'd love to interact with you. I invite you in. What ideas do you have about inspiration or what I've put forward? What do you think about it? Serena's really been on top of text. Great chat interactions. Gave you a couple sites in there for some additional work. I learned early on in my training about the power of the pause, right? That like in a coaching session or in a presentation, that it's so important to use pause. I still think it's important even in a virtual webinar, but boy, does it feel awkward.
Agree, it feels awkward. Jen, a question to you. What inspired you start Inspire Corp?
Yeah, I said a little bit about it, but essentially, you know, my mission is for people to love their work in the world and to be appreciated for it. I believe that the world will change in important, powerful ways when people love their work and they're appreciated for it. And so we think about inspiration as a mechanism, a pathway through which people can love their work. Now it's much broader than that, but you know, our firm specializes, we are an inspiration strategy firm. We help organizations figure out how to build inspiration as a resource, a most valuable resource to be managed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other good questions? Let's see. Share your ups and downs with others. Absolutely. Is inspiration costly? Absolutely not. What you'll find is it lives in you to activate, to see in the world. How do you stay motivated yourself? I can tell you that I am juggling a lot. This is our first economic crisis that we've managed as an organization. And I'm really leaning into colleagues that have been through other downturns and trusting their insights and their advice. I'm also, you know, managing a good bit of change personally. So I find some foundational ways to stay motivated and inspire myself include sticking to my routine. Even though some days I really want to just stay in bed, sticking to my routine, and sometimes it's as simple as just getting one foot to land on the ground out of bed, and then every step is the goal. So those are some of what I'm doing. Really leaning on others, asking for help when I need it. That reciprocity of belonging. Being in the work, we're giving a lot of our work away right now because there are so many organizations that need it but aren't in a position to invest in, you know, this month. They are really, really great questions. So we're at time. I want to thank everyone. Final slide. We would love to stay in contact with you. We'd love to stay in contact. We'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's the platform that I'm on most of the time. Instagram, certainly Inspire Corps, like the Peace Corps, CORPS. So please reach out. We'd love to stay connected. Hope this is the beginning of a powerful conversation. Hope these insights will spark some new action for you, some new possibility, and move you toward a new inspired action. Thank you all so much.